The broadcast is live. Wow. Hello, everybody. You know what it is. It's so weird not having music in my ears. Usually, when I live stream, I have music. And now you can't hear anything but me. So, look, for this to be interesting, you have to ask questions. I'm going to keep an eye both on YouTube chat and on Discord. And I don't know how we're going to do this. Brainiac, who, by the way, Brainiac is in fact the biggest lover of minimal APIs to this day. How would I rate Solution1? I mean, come on. Solution1 is the best thing that has happened to .NET. I think you must be important because someone said it's a chance to ask questions to Nick Chapsas. No, I'm not. Hi, Patrick. Stop talking about EF stuff in the Discord server. Nobody cares. Just use a repository and that's it. First, I'm third. I'm gonna put in the chat. Here you go. Oh, this would be so much better with music. Anyway. Oh, here we go. First question. .NET with a dot, .NET with a capital ENT. Which one? What is the worst code I've ever seen? I don't know. It's probably something I wrote years ago. Hot Tub Wolf. What is Solution1? Solution1 is this conference, this online Discord conference. What is your favorite not so well known feature in Rider? I'll tell you what is my favorite not so well feature in Rider, which is actually very new and I really, really like. If I quickly, I don't know if Brainiac is still here to change the thing, but I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see how we do this. Okay, and this is the screen I wanna share. Fine. Let's see if this actually works. Oh, amazing! Look at this technology. My favorite feature that people don't know so much, mainly because it just came out, is this one. If you're using the latest EAP of Rider, so I mean the latest EAP version, and you go to the traditional like IL viewer, which usually just showed the intermediate language that C# compiles into. Now you also have two other options, low-level C# and high-level C#. So previously, to see the low-level C#, you'd have to copy the code, go into sharplab.io, try to import the dependencies, and then see the code. You no longer have to do that. All you need to do is go here and select either low-level C# or high-level C#. And that's pretty good for someone who looks at this all the time. So not having to go to SharpLab and like, especially for making videos, let alone working on this stuff, like this is a lifesaver. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. This is fantastic. Memes aside, oh, I actually have to do this in order to be fair. Let me just move my face over here. What's my opinion on separating data layer classes, repos, DBO classes into separate projects? I think the whole separate project thing is a bit overblown. You can achieve the exact same thing by having everything in a single project. The benefit of separating things is you can actually sort of manage the dependencies in a way when something isn't supposed to be imported because it doesn't belong somewhere, then you don't import it. So in that sense, just to limit you like geographically, it makes sense. But you can achieve the same thing in a very mature team with having everything in a single project. Now, if you want to reuse, let's say, your API contracts or your DTO models, then maybe those things go in a separate package and they become a NuGet package when you push your code. In that case, it makes more sense, especially if you have like an SDK that calls your API or the system you're using. But I think it's very overrated. Sorry for bringing out finances that quick, but I'm really curious to the point YouTube start becoming seriously lucrative to maintain. Is what you're trying to say, Sosen Binder? Whether it makes enough money for me to actually live, or it makes enough money for me to actually retire in a few years? Because the question for both is no. It doesn't really make a lot of money. Yeah, and I agree with what Patrick said, which is like it helps you on the previous question. It helps you to isolate the concerns, but it doesn't mean you can't do the same thing with folders. But then if you're doing vertical slices, then that's harder to do. What is the main reason to fully go into streaming and producing community content? And was there a moment of me regretting it? I think the most obvious thing moving into content is, or to content creation full time, is the question everyone asks is, how do you stay up to date with the latest stuff? And you don't actually do that in your day job, so how can we trust what you're saying? But I don't know if the companies you've worked, there's always a person that would go home and then come back and say, let's go and try this and put it in production, or stress test this, performance test this, and try something new. Well, I was usually that person, so I'm still doing the same work. The difference is now I don't have to wake up at 3 a.m. when something breaks to go and fix it. That being said, that is also part of the job, so I can't see how things break at scale. But you know, that's the thing I kind of regret. But on the other hand, I have full control of my time, so I don't really regret it. And I can make the stuff exactly as I want them. I have time to do other stuff outside of work, you know, back into cooking, back into hitting the gym. So it's good. Memes aside, do I actually like minimal APIs and top-level statements? It seems it sometimes confuses beginners more than it helps. Actually, I'm Trade. What happened when we hired our first batch of graduates back in my last job is I had the opportunity to use someone who's only done like a bit of Python in uni, and that's it, and try to expose them to .NET as an ecosystem. And what I did is I first showed controllers, and then I showed minimal APIs. They did not get controllers at all, but they did get minimal APIs straight away. Maybe that's because of a bit of a Python background. Maybe they've been exposed a bit to JavaScript. But actually, it was easier for beginners to understand that model than the controllers. There's a lot of magic in the controllers framework and approach. And I have a whole talk talking about why I don't think it's a great idea. Shouldn't that view also have source link next to IL? Yeah, I guess TB Consulting. But I mean, if you want it, you can raise an issue on Rider, which is also the sponsor, well, JetBrains is the sponsor of this event, and they can do that for you, just for you. If you knew, Snowgirl97, if you knew you wouldn't ever change from VS to Rider in your job, would you still try Rider out for your? I didn't change to Rider because I had to in my job. I actually paid for a commercial license myself to use it at work because I just couldn't stand VS alone or VS with ReSharper, because at the time I had a laptop which it didn't really like ReSharper. So I don't regret moving into Rider. And actually, I made a video on VS 2022 when it came out, comparing it with Rider as it was then. And the video was so negative towards Visual Studio, they actually never published it. I said actually like 15 times, but yes, the video was bad. It was a good video, but I was a bit mean. Maybe I'll come back into doing that video at some point. Let's see. Let's see. What's my favorite? Oh no, wait. I think I skipped a few. Damn. What do you think repository on top of EF core makes sense? It doesn't. It doesn't make sense. Okay, there are scenarios where it can make sense. The biggest argument that the people who say you should have a repository pattern around your EF core is, well, there's two. One is testability, but you can get around testability with other ways by mocking the queryable. It's a bit trickier, but it is possible. But I can kind of stand behind that. The other thing is, obviously, if you, IEF is a unit of work and a repository pattern with a DB set and the in the context. But then if you inject the context, you have this very wide scope where you can do anything. But people forget that you are writing the code. Like, you can limit yourself. Like, if you need a class and an interface to limit yourself by doing things, then the problem is you. It's not the repository pattern or EF core. But I actually had another point, which is you can still use a repository pattern if you're using EF core and Dapper, for example, when you're going with a hybrid approach where you're using migrations and writes and updates using EF core, and then you're using Dapper for your reads to keep them very, very fast. Even though I think EF core is actually very, very fast. I don't know how it compares with Dapper at this point, but it wasn't fast enough when I was looking at it like 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. So there are reasons why you might want to go with it, but I just wouldn't. Let me see if there's any other things. Okay, let's go to the next one, which I think is Patrick. When are you next at a live in-person event so we mash our bodies together in a loving hug? I am going to be in a few days. In fact, in a week from now, I will be at Hull, out of all places, for DDD North. I'm not speaking, I'm just attending. So, yeah. Patrick, just come say hi. Let's see, there's nothing on the YouTube chat, so everything is on Discord, so I'll keep going with Discord. Let me have a sip of this water. What is my favorite, most used typing shortcuts? I think prop tab is my most used to create a property, or CTO WARF constructor, or obviously the control T to search everyone in Rider, because Rider is in fact the best IDE there is in the universe, not just for C#, for any language. So yeah. Let's see what's next. Do you think you will ever go back into a regular software engineering job, or if you go back only to work as a freelancer consultant from here? I think if I was to go back to a full-time job, I would not go probably for a software engineering job. I wouldn't go for an IC or individual contributor. I would probably go for a developer advocate job. I think at this point, my skill set and my reach would be better used there than as a software engineer. I think. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. Hopefully, I never have to go work full time again. I loved my job, but this is way better. Like, way, way better. Klav asks, what is my preferred approach to handling errors in .NET, especially if you need to propagate errors through the call stack or different app layers? So I've kind of talked about this. There's sort of two schools of thought, and also it depends on what type of software you're writing. Is it an API? Is it something that processes messages? Because if you're processing a message, then in both cases, exceptions can be expensive. So throwing exceptions can be problematic. But an easy way to do this is either in your pipeline, whether that is your custom-made pipeline or your request processing pipeline, you can register an exception middleware very early. So if something throws, you can catch that there, translate it to an error, and then throw it back to the user. That's very easy. And the reason why I don't like it is that anything can throw those exceptions, and you have to handle them. So it can get a bit out of hand and be like a dumping ground for people to just throw exceptions. The alternative would be sort of borrowing a concept that we don't really have in C# right now, which is the result class or the option class, which it can either have some value or an error value or some value or no value, and then maybe try to convert the exceptions or the fault to an error type and return that. I prefer the second one compared to the first one, but I totally get why you would go with just the general exception throwing as well. Depends whether performance matters or not, because performance is also contextual. Let's see if I have anything on YouTube chat. Oh, that's a good question from Zulius. Whether it's gonna be an overlay of the questions I'm answering as I'm answering them when this goes live on YouTube. Brainiac, the lover of minimal APIs, I'll leave this with you. Stark asks, what is the best workaround to write asynchronous code in a void returning method, noting that you cannot change the signature of the method? There is no best work. It's like you're saying, no, I'm not gonna say it. No, you're screwed. You have to synchronize. You have to do synchronous over asynchronous at this point. Wrapping it in a task won't help. No. And it's not like dot wait or like dot get await or dot. All of those are bad. Also depends on where you're calling it from, synchronization context and all of that. Too big of a question. Too much of a trap as well. Let's go ahead. Rider gang. Here we go. Oh. Here we go. Question from YouTube. Are you a rider lover or is it sponsored? I am in fact a rider lover. Let me show you how much of a rider lover I am. Just give me a second. You know what? I thought I had more stickers in here. No, wait a second. I had a whole pack. So Matthias, who was in the previous talk, I think, a few days ago, had this huge bag, like box with stickers, rider stickers, and a bunch of other stuff. And I rated that whole thing. So somewhere in there, I have so many stickers. Let's do a giveaway. Okay, let's scroll down. I personally like using a mediator myself and mocking that instead. Mocking queries sounds like a nightmare. Well, what exactly are you mocking there though? Like, are you mocking? People go overboard with mocking, like a lot. So you have to be careful not to over mock as well. Where's your dapper tag? Nope. Superbrain asks, can you name a specific .NET feature that you personally call bad and would really like to be fixed yesterday? That's a good question. I consider bad. Oh man. Can I? It's not a feature, but I wish task wasn't called task. I think task was called promise or future or something. Like task is a bad name. It's not a feature. I guess if I go and search, then are you talking about .NET features or C# features? Because that's also different. I think, I don't know. No, that's my question. That's my question. Unless you make it more specific. Can I name one negative and one positive feature of C# 11? Okay, let's do this. So I actually made a video on this recently, so I can just go ahead and refer to the sections on that video to get the names. So a good feature. I'm gonna be honest. I really like the support we're getting with like the list patterns thing in different places. But I think as it is now, it's so limited. I'm not a huge fan of those patterns. And then sometimes people post on Twitter what they can do with those patterns. And I'm like, you had a perfectly readable piece of code on the left, and you made something completely unreadable on the right just to showcase the feature. I'm not a big fan of that. Now, my favorite, to be honest, generic on attributes is pretty good. Required members is probably my favorite. Generic math or abstracting over static members is very useful, but I think Microsoft has done a poor job presenting what the feature can do because they focus so much on the generic math aspect of it to the point where I think they named it in some places generic math support, and you can do so much more stuff with it. So yeah, that's why I'm not too fast. Required members, so good. I wish the fill keyword actually made it into C# 11. Let's hope we see that in C# 12. Let's go back to the chat here. What courses can you expect from me in 2023? So there's going to be an update on the minimal APIs course before the 24th of December, adding everything that was added in minimal APIs in .NET 7. This also means the price will increase. So if you want to buy the course now, you get to keep the update for free. There's also going to be an AWS service for .NET developers coming. And that's going to be free for everyone. AWS is sponsoring the whole thing. That should come before the end of January, if I can actually get my life together. And then after that, I can tell you that I will be making basically a refresh of my free course on YouTube, the first content I made, which is my REST API course. And there's also going to be courses by experts in other fields on topic that you want me to make courses on, but I just don't make courses on things I'm not an expert on. So there will be friends of mine, people you know, people actually who spoke in this conference as well, making courses in my platform. And maybe we can see where we can take the platform from there. So there's a lot of stuff coming 2023. I'm just recharging my batteries. Let me just grab a sip of that. Right. Let's see. So now answer that. Oh, those checkboxes are so good. Do you have a preferred message queuing protocol, MQTT? Not really. I mean, AMQP would be the one I'm probably most familiar with. But with other things coming in the picture, things like Kafka for eventing and all the different services you can use, I think the protocol itself becomes a bit less significant. Or with things like DynamoDB or CosmosDB, we can do real-time streaming of updates directly from the database. And you can hook a Lambda on that and listen to that. Question from YouTube. What do you think about .NET MAUI? Is it good time to start using it? I forget that this is not my own channel and I have to be very careful with what I say. MAUI is great. I don't do frontend, so there's nothing I can say that really has any gravity or that matters. So, if you want to use it, use it. I haven't really looked at it. MAUI is good. Let's scroll up. Question from YouTube. Are you using Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code? I am using JetBrains Rider, the sponsor of this video. Not video. Live stream. The best IDE for .NET and other languages. .NET isn't the language. Here we go. How can one be a rider lover and then stickers? I have a sticker here. I have a sticker on my everything. I have a sticker. Did I just disconnect my sound? Can you hear me? I hope you can hear me. Okay, Nikolai. Can you hear me now? Brainiac, let me know if you can hear me. Okay. I just slapped my audio interface while I was grabbing that laptop. Sound is back. Perfect. Let's go all the way up again. Nope. Where was I? So I keep missing the chat. Here we go. Can you send your cup to me so I can gift it? Yes, I actually can. Yeah, definitely. Question: you mentioned once you tried out Fleet. Did you ever try it again? And what do you think about the future? I did try Fleet again, and at the same time, I forget this is sponsored by JetBrains. I also tried the new UI by JetBrains, and I really liked it. It was great. It took me half an hour to find how to change from debug to release. I want to make another piece of content for Fleet. Yeah, I'll cover it again. I did try it. Question: is there from mtrade? Is there a proposed C# feature discriminated unions roles active part? You're really excited for? I really want discriminated unions. Make it happen. Also, forget the features. Can we just stop pushing things into the next release? I know you want to commit to. This is not your own channel. Stop, Nick. Don't go into a rant. No, I'm gonna say it. If you don't promise features that you don't end up putting in the damn language. I'm making the videos twice and everyone's getting hyped, and then it's like features go back to the next release last minute. Anyway. Yeah, I'm more excited for features to actually make it into the language after they've been announced. Anyway, let's move to the next question. Question from YouTube. Which extensions do you use that helps you to code? I think the Neon Cat loading bar is pretty good. Other than that, I'm not really a big extension user. Other than the basics ones, Docker or AWS Toolkit and all those sort of mandatory ones if you want to integrate with anything. I keep it vanilla. People also ask me what's the power user shortcuts you're using to be like so fast. Because that's editing. I'm very bad at being a power user on my ID. I just edit stuff post-production. Is configure await the worst named .NET method in terms of impact? I think it's not so much that it is configure await, it's that the parameter is a boolean and no one knows what the name of the boolean is. They just know that they have to put it into false, but they don't know what it is or why. It's just configure await false. What do I think of the C# Discord community? Seriously. I'm going to give you a serious answer. The first time I joined, it was intimidating. I'm not going to lie. The C# Discord community is actually very different from anything I've seen in terms of like user groups or conferences or anything. It's sort of, when people ask me why I do make videos, is like I want people to see C# to be as cool as I think it is. And sort of the C# Discord community is as inclusive and as they help make C# look cool and young and relevant. So that's why I really like the Discord server. Anyway, I don't want you to cry. Question from YouTube. I'm looking for a decentralized why database in a .NET world where performance doesn't really matter. What would I go for? Define decentralized database, because I know what the word means, but some people use it, but they really mean distributed. So maybe give me some context on that. Any course on Kubernetes soon? Nah. There's tons of things on Kubernetes. The complexity on Kubernetes isn't on the C# stuff. I want to keep it C#.NET. So there's no point in making Kubernetes content. It's like making a Docker course or content. Like, once you have a Docker file, none of the rest actually matters. That being said, the video on Monday is on Docker, so joke's on me. Let's go back to the next question. Xanaris asks, what are my thoughts on startups building out of their MVP in architecture with microservices and CQRS so that it's scalable when they don't even have any estimated daily user count yet? Yeah. Look, you probably don't need... you added CQRS there, which is like worse for me. Because people think CQRS is like mediator, or having a different database for reads and a different database for writes. By the way, I also don't like DDD. There, I said it. You don't need it. You're being trolled by consultants that make it sound way more intelligent than it actually is. Anyway, again, that's not my channel. Yeah, you can go ahead with the microservice and then start making this or building the microservice in a way where it can be carved out and you can make microservice out of the monolith. I think I said I meant monolith. So you start with a monolith, you can carve out microservices as you go if you need it. Like, make the product first. People don't pay for your microservice, they pay to buy like a t-shirt. So I don't get why you need the complexity. Anyway. You have sold me on using Maui. Well, it's the little things. Let's go to the next question. Your audio is dead. Okay, now it's working. Okay, I will fix that. Damn, I'm still answering questions, but okay. Question. You have probably tried a lot of tooling around Docker Kubernetes to distribute apps like Tide, Dapper, Scaffold, the SpaceX. Do you have a set of those tools you favored so far? It seems like there's so many proof of concept that... Yeah, I think the ones that have settled for me are Docker and Kubernetes. Those are like the two constants. I did try Tide, but Tide, it looks like I made my video on Tide too late. And even though it actually has many views and there was like a lot of interest, Microsoft insists in advertising their videos themselves, and people just don't trust Microsoft for some reason. Go figure. So I think Tide is dead or not being worked on anymore. That might be an outdated view, by the way. I haven't looked at it in a long time. Maybe they're still working on it again, but there was a time where there was no commits on the repo. But yeah, Docker Kubernetes, at this point, you can't really go wrong. And then other things to complement it, like Helm for the charts and so on. What do you think about the Rider UI, the Rider's new UI? Okay. We're going to do this. I'm going to do this because I owe. I don't owe anything, but I just want to do it. Um, let's move things outside of my desktop because I know it will actually restart. So just give me a second. I'll tell you what I think about Rider's new UI. By the way, Rider will still be the best idea in the universe after I make this short presentation. Thanks for sponsoring this conference. Brainiac, you need to do your thing. Oh, thank you. So, in case you didn't know, Rider has a new UI. So currently, Rider looks like this, right? It's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with it. It is absolutely lovely. Will we all agree in the chat? Yes, we will. Now, if I go here and I say new UI, I can go ahead in the settings and enable this new UI. Someone said VS Design better than Rider in the chat. Someone banned them. Quick. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and enable UI. By default, by the way, this is not checked in. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to just say save and restart now for everything to reload. So let's do that. So this is the new Rider UI. So yeah. Now you can fix the missing menu bar, which by the way is here. But I'm not really a fan of this approach by just saying show this as a separate bar. Now, do you see that how this thing appears here? By default, with a new UI, this thing doesn't appear. So if you want to run or build in release mode, you actually have to go in some very obscure setting to find out how it looks, how it works. By the way, yes, it does look a lot more like VS Code. Now, it also looks a lot like Fleet, which looks a lot like VS Code. Again, thank you for sponsoring this this conference, JetBrains. You guys are amazing. But if I go here and I increase the font to what it was before, you can see how lovely everything is. It's a really nice UI. Wouldn't you agree with me in the chat? Yeah, I didn't find how to switch release and debug with the new UI. Looked there for an hour. Yeah, so this was a bit of a pain to find out. It looks like it has a setting now, show configurational toolbar. But if I uncheck it, it's gonna take me like a long time to find out where it is. By the way, if anyone from JetBrains is listening to this, you're amazing. Anyway, I think I'm not gonna jump in the new UI just straight away. I think I'm gonna wait for a hot second. So I'm just gonna say new UI, go back to what it was, and be happy. I want to go back. Yeah, I want to go back as well. Oh no, my font. What happened? Well, nothing happened because with the brand new ID Rider, you can change in a second. Thanks for sponsoring this conference. Anyway, I'm gonna go back to my face. Here we go. Okay, I might like now. It's nice. So here's my thought process. There's no way they're gonna keep maintaining two UIs. So I think the new UI will be the UI after maybe the next release of Rider. And yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I like it, but it's different. I think it's consolidation between the Fleet UI and the... Yeah, that's it. With the Fleet UI. Okay, So let's go back to the questions because I think we had some that haven't answered. Oh, there's many. So, are you planning on doing videos about debugging or have flawed code or debugging tools to pinpoint the flaw? I think what I want to do, which is going to be more interesting and kind of involves debugging, is actually profile. Show you how you can use profiling tools like Rider's native integration of dot memory and dot trace, which helps you identify the performance bottlenecks and the memory allocation stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna show you how to profile an application, detect memory leaks, maybe debug it as well. It's definitely coming. Maybe this could be its own course as well, because there's so many things you can do, and it involves things like performance testing as well and soak testing to see how your application actually fails, and like, is it a connection exhaustion issue? Is it a memory leak? So many things. What is your preferred language for backend other than C#? It has to be John Kotlin, which is also made by JetBrains. No, jokes aside, it is Kotlin. Kotlin has made, in my opinion, many of the design choices on the language level that I think C# should have from the beginning. So yeah, the way Kotlin does nullability, for example, is how C# should have done from the beginning. The way Kotlin does functions and the whole functional aspect of the language is amazing. Even the coroutines and that thing, it's just so good. Yeah, I like Kotlin. So good. Who is my favorite member of the community and why is it Patrick? It is Patrick. It is definitely Patrick. With a close second being Brainiac. But he likes those minimal APIs too much, and you can't trust someone who likes minimal APIs too much. So Patrick, yeah, is my favorite. Postgres, SQL Server, MySQL. Where's MariaDB? What's the... Why discriminating against SQL? It has to be Postgres. You didn't ask why, so I'm not going to tell you. I'm just going to tell you Postgres is the one you should use. From your job experience, and since this is often asked question on the server, what do you think about programming certificates in general for our industry? So, I do not like when someone just studies for the test and the proof of their knowledge is that they passed a test once. Now, I understand that in some cases it's a requirement for a job. Maybe some cloud consultancy wants you to have that thing to be hired. Otherwise, they won't hire you. But really, it just tells me that in a point in time, you studied enough to pass the test. And to be honest, if you've taken any of those courses showing you how to pass the test for certificates, they all give you like these hacks on the questions that you should expect and how they should be worded. Like, if I can hack my way into answering the questions that don't really represent my job, then I'm not a fan. It wouldn't make you more hireable to me if you had the certificate on anything. And we're talking purely on cloud, by the way. If you were talking about things like a C# certificate, I do not care about your C# certificate. It's pointless to me. It's like, are you keeping up to date with it every year? And are you refreshing it every year? The language is coming out with the new features? Because only then it's maybe relevant. But even then, do you use any project management tools and which ones? I've consolidated all of my project management tools that I had, like Trello. I've used Jira. Yes, I'm a masochist. I've used many tools, but I consolidated all of that now in Notion, which is fantastic. It's by far my favorite tool for managing basically my whole life. Awesome tool. I'll recommend to everyone. Would you remove minimal APIs forever in exchange of migrating all existing code to .NET 7? No. If you want to keep... No. If you want to keep your code in like .NET Framework 3.5 and your company pays you for that, just do that. It's up to you to go and work somewhere that actually use .NET 7. Legacy code is good because when I want to retire, I'm just gonna go and work for a project that uses .NET Framework 3.5 and get paid tons of money. Yeah, I think Thai is dead. They refuse to add many features, so people going out of it. Yeah, so they're moving into Dapper, and yeah. Question for everyone here: is there a Rider edition, a Rider Community edition? No, but if you're a student or if you're doing open source, you can get a license for free, as long as it is free open source. So yeah. Okay, let's go ahead. Is it me, or does the new Rider UI look a lot like Visual Studio Code? Yeah, which also looks a lot like Fleet. I don't know if you've seen Fleet lately. Let me open the JetBrains toolbox to show you how Fleet looks like right now. Here you go. You go up there. Let's try to open this in the Explorer. Okay. Fleet version expired. Update Fleet. Wait. Oh. Interesting. I have to download, but I have the toolbox. Why do I need to download it again? JetBrains. And then you link me to the toolbox? JetBrains is an amazing company and the products are fantastic. Don't listen to me. Okay, it looks like I have to reinstall Fleet for some reason. So let's just not do that and move on with the questions. I don't need to show you Fleet. Okay. There's more questions and there's only like 13 minutes. So, I mean, we can go over it, fine. So now can you say VS UI is better than Rider UI? No, even the new UI is better than the VS UI. No, don't try to make VS UI is a good thing happen. Which football club do you support? I do not watch football. Do you use the presentation distraction-free UI modes? I do not. I probably should, but I don't. I don't use presentation UI mode. Scroll down. Velvet. Everyone can do this every once in a while. It's good. I'm not gonna click that picture, whatever it is. Are you practicing in development of any .NET OSS projects? Participating, sorry, English. I do not. I kind of have enough in my plate already, so not really. However, sometimes I do some pairing sessions with Michael Stipe from the Hot Chocolate projects to see how we can optimize some bits and bobs of his code. But he actually checks in from his account because we pair a program on his laptop. So my name isn't there, but that's as far as I go into contributing to open source. Why did I choose .NET? I didn't. .NET chose me. And by that, I mean, when I was 22 and I was looking for my first job, the first person to offer me a programming job, I just said yes. And they just happened to be .NET. So that's why I got into .NET. So I didn't really go looking for .NET. Okay. Advice for novices. The same advice I give every time, or the same advice that people ask me. If you could give advice to your younger self, what would it be? Your ego will hurt you way more than your average programming skills. So try to work on that. And then you work on your skills. What does an average day in your life look like? It's very rough. You wake up at like 10:30 because you're still jet lagged because you were in the US 5 days ago. You make coffee, really bad Nespresso coffee as well. And then you sit down and you read stuff and you try to find ideas on how you can make videos on the things you're reading. Because some people are very good at explaining a thing technically, but they don't know how to make it interesting to the reader. That's where I come in. I try to find the story behind the thing I want to present. And then the rest of my day is trying to figure out what's the best title for a video and the best face I can make for you to click the video. That's my life. If I'm lucky, I also make courses. How much should you factor in pay versus enjoying things you're working on? Let's say, W pay to work on something you don't enjoy doing. At this point, it's not just. Here's the thing: when you don't enjoy what you're doing, even if you're getting paid a lot of money, things around you will suffer, or you will suffer as well eventually. The novelty of money actually diminishes very quickly. And truth to be told, after a specific amount of money, your quality of life won't really improve that much, even if the money even doubles after that point. And there's research backing this up and about what this number is. So I value enjoying what I'm doing way more than the money I would make. In fact, I was thinking of moving into full-time content creation. And when I was thinking about that, with a mortgage, by the way, I thought of going into it when it would half my income, my annual income. Just because I was burnt out. Question from YouTube. What do you think about GitHub Copilot? Programmers will lose their jobs in the future. I highly doubt that. Someone needs to be there to press tab. So, yeah. I'm going to be a professional tab presser at some point. Question from Velvet. As someone who has worked on a lot of projects and then plugs their GitHub user, but has no professional experience, what were some tips for getting my foot on the door? Truly entry-level positions are non-existent, and I can get... I don't know if truly entry-level positions are non-existent. Maybe the climate right now with the layoffs and everything actually reflects what you're saying. But I think we're going to recover from that. And there are people in positions that you can jump into to get your foot through the door. The truth is, if you have a strong GitHub presence, and I can't go through every single one of your repos right now, but as long as your repos are not just you are forking a project like the clean architecture project or something, then you have good chances. On the other hand, it also depends on the country you're in. The US is different, the UK is different, maybe France, Germany are different. So the advice would really depend on the location. I have advice to give for the UK because that's where I am and that's where I hired myself. But yeah. Question, how long does it take on average to start to finish a video? Oh, English. How long does it take on average from start to finish to produce a video for your YouTube channel? I'd say it takes from 3 to 8 hours, depending on the video. It has taken more, but the reason why it's taken more is because halfway through the recording, I did something that fundamentally changed how I thought the video would go. And then I spent the whole night trying to see why that happened. But that's very rare. But yeah, I would say like 3 to 8 hours. 8 hours is very extreme. On average, maybe 4 hours. I'm cutting a lot of stuff out, a lot of stuff where I'm typing and I'm not talking because it will be boring. And I also try to keep it interesting. So it has to flow very naturally. And I don't have a script either. Let's go to the next one. Dark or light mode, your personal preference in general. So my personal preference is dark mode, is exactly how I have my ID. And I'm not going to change that when I'm presenting content on YouTube for anyone, because really I'm making the videos for me. On the other hand, when I'm in conferences or when I'm delivering workshops, I'm using light themes because on projectors and on screens, they show better. So for accessibility purposes there, I do it. So yeah, dark mode for me, light mode for conferences and workshops. Follow-up question on income question, but don't you like jet skis? I actually have a jet ski. The money thing is super true. Yeah, you need to make expand. Yeah, okay. Someone needs to be there to press tab. Yes, I'm funny. Let's go to the next one. Windows Vista or Windows 11. You know how amazing the UX is. You know what? I'm still on Windows 10. I got burned from going from Windows 7 to Windows 8. And then it took a long time for me to go from 8.1 to 10. And it's going to take a long time for me to go from 10 to 11 again. I don't want to have to deal with any of that roughness again. So yeah. Let's see if there's anything on YouTube as well. Are you using a different IDE than JetBrains sometimes? And if you do, when? I'm using a different IDE, which is Visual Studio, only when I have to. And usually when I have to is when a new feature is coming out in C# that Rider doesn't actually support yet. I'll give you an example. Let me find, and by the way, Rider is an amazing feature. Did I say it's an amazing feature? I want to emphasize it again. Rider is in fact an amazing IDE. It's not a feature. I don't know why I said feature. But, oh, wait a second. Okay, they didn't add it. Okay, fine. So, let me do the following before I share my screen. You can't see what I'm doing. Perfect. So, let me go ahead and present. Brainiac, I need you to do a thing. Fantastic. So here we have an example which doesn't really matter what's in here. All you need to know is I'm trying to pass a span of characters in here, in this text holder. And if I just did Nick or NICK, for example, and I run this, and then this will print Nick. It basically appends that text, but it's passed as a read-only span in here, and it's copied in a read-only span of characters here. Anyway, my point is, if I try to do this thing, the language won't let me, but I can go now here and mark this as, actually not this, and mark this method as scoped, because now scoped is a keyword that is supported, because in C#, fun fact, we don't have enough keywords. So now Rider doesn't support it even on the EAP, but if I do .NET Run, then as you can see, this does print Nick. It does compile. It's just a visual bug because the visual compiler or hints don't support the feature. So if I go in Visual Studio, this is actually supported. That's only when I would go into Visual Studio, because I would need like bleeding edge feature support. But in general, Rider is very good at supporting features. So can't really complain. Let's go here. Let's go back to the questions. Is Fleet reinstalled yet? Oh, you want me to actually show that? Okay, let's try to find Fleet install. Tips for dealing with burnout. Just take a break. It's fine. I tried to push through the burnout many times and it never worked. I usually just pick up something new. Lego building helped me a lot in my personal phase of my burnout. Learning other stuff has helped me. It's you have to take your mind outside of the thing that's causing the burnout. Obviously, don't try to fight through that. It actually is not going to work. Okay, so Fleet presumably has reinstalled. Nope, it hasn't. It says each Fleet preview version is only valid for 42 days. Please update, even though I just reinstalled the latest version. So it's an amazing ID, by the way, and JetBrains is an amazing sponsor. And we're going to be giving away 2 keys for JetBrains Rider. So no, Fleet is not reinstalled. Does a real programmer need a mechanical keyboard with clicky switches? The answer to that is that no, a real programmer needs a mechanical keyboard with clicky switches. I don't know if you can hear this, but they also need one of these because they have neighbors and they don't want to be an obnoxious individual in an office where they will bring their own mechanical keyboard with green switches sounding insanely and just tapping them in the office like they're a maniac. Jacob. Anyway. Opinions on Blazor WebAssembly. Yeah, it's good. It's Blazor again. The whole UI thing is outside of what I'm doing. So I'm not really an expert on the thing, and it's not really something I am invested or interested. But from what I've seen and where it's going, it seems to be maturing. I would consider the things coming out now, in my opinion, as the stable stuff or the usable stuff. Anyway, did you ever have to repair someone else's code? How did you deal with it? And would you rather start from scratch when try to repair something that's obviously bad, or do you tell your manager just repair it? You have to. So you're talking about refactoring. You have to understand that managers and business does not give a flying. I can't say that, it's not my channel. They don't really care about something not being elegant or nice code. All they care is, can user click button, I get money, business pays bills. That's all they care about. Now, you can go ahead and introduce like clean architecture and vertical slices and whatever you want, but the business won't really see any of that, so they don't care. So first you have to justify why you want to make the refactoring. Actually, are you someone who will really benefit from a faster loading time? If you are, then you can make a case. Maybe you have to explain what that means in terms of money for the business. Will you rank higher in Google if your APIs respond faster? That's how you want to approach it. By the way, I had to do this. And then if you actually want to get an approval on that, you have first to write end-to-end or acceptance tests to safeguard the existing logic, because you can't go ahead and write unit tests. The code is definitely not unit testable. And then once you do that, you want to go a level deeper and maybe do some integration testing, and then you can go ahead and touch unit testing, which will drive your refactoring. So yeah. What kind of switches? Yeah, green. Favorite video you ever made or topic you ever talked about? I think when I talked, actually, let's see. Let me go and filter on my most viewed videos. I don't really necessarily think my most viewed will be the ones I like the most, but I think the Copilot video I did, I let GitHub Copilot be the pilot for my C# code. That thing was amazing for me because it's the first time it wasn't just pure C# code. It had more personality and actually showed that people actually like that. It had a very good thumbnail. It had a very good title. It really, you can put a pin on it and see how my content started changing from that point on. And it also did very well. But I also really like how positively people respond in insane deep dives on things that you really don't need to know, like today's video. But maybe I shouldn't use. But I like the reception of those videos, so very happy with that. Let's see what else. What's your favorite video game? I think my favorite video game of all time, I think Portal 2 is up there. If I have to evaluate the whole package, the writing, the humor, the gameplay, everything. Now, as someone who grew up with MMORPGs and mobile games, I only recently came into the world of like story driven games like the past 3 years. So I've played things like The Last of Us for the first time like 3 years ago. The first one that was amazing, and a bunch of other stuff. So I've never played Ocarina of Time or Zelda like the original ones, or Majora's Mask, so I can't speak for those. I never had a Nintendo 64, so I think Portal 2 is up there. With a look at the time, since we're already over it, is it fine for Nick to allow 3 more questions? Oh, that is true. We are over. I didn't even notice how the time went by. So I don't know how we're gonna do this. If Brainiac, if you wanna stop this, or if you want me to answer more stuff, I'm easy. Let's see what's in the YouTube chat. Another question. It seems that microservices is a term that is defined quite precisely. At what point is it microservices and it's not just service-based architecture? I think microservices is very explicit in terms of the size of the service. So it's micro, it's small. Service-based architecture, the services aren't necessarily small. They can be big. There can be many monoliths coming together. That's still SOP. SOA, service-oriented architecture. So as long as it's small, I think I've never really written a microservice that's more than 2,000 lines of code in the service. And most of it was resilience code anyway. Anyway, Brainiac? Oh, I can see it. Is there not any more questions? Would say thank you. Well, thanks for having me, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone who's celebrating. And Brainiac, you can stop the session whenever you want.